Great to have your company once again on NBL Now. These are our very special mid-season reviews. We're taking a look at each and every team. We're talking about the boxes that they can tick as the positive and the ones that they need to put a cross in for the negative as we reload for the second half of the season. I think it's a pretty obvious statement when I say that no team enables more emotion than the Perth Wildcats, and the Red Army will be sweating on the mid-season review. And while we thought we'd go straight to the top and get absolute Wildcat royalty, Shawn Redhage, to join us on NBL Now for this review. Shawn, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Looking forward to diving deep into the Perth Wildcats season so far.
Which is an interesting season so far. When you look at all of the key metrics, you look at their win-loss record at 6 and 7. It feels like it's been a bit hard to get a read on them. What have you made of their year so far?
Yeah, it has. I think that they, 1 week feel like they're turned the corner, they've got it all figured out, and then particularly if they go on the road, it seems like they drop some games that you thought that they had a good chance of winning. So, all the injuries and everything hasn't really helped their case to find that consistency, but they have shown glimpses here in the early parts that they've, I think, improved in some areas from last year. And if they can get everyone playing probably the right way, I think there's some exciting things for the Red Army to look forward to in the second half.
So is their best and their absolute best, when you've seen it, is that good enough to be a top 2, top 3 team in the NBL?
I think so. I think when you look at when they're playing defense, when they're getting deflections, they're active, they're rebounding, those type of things tell me that they're switched on and they're ready to play. And then if they get guys knocking down some threes, especially guys like Dylan Windler, I think really gives them that edge that they can provide against other teams. One thing I like about them is they're so versatile. They can go out there, they can throw out some different lineups, almost really switch a lot of stuff to try and disrupt the other team. And, so I think they're probably a bit deeper than they have been the last couple of years. Now it's just a matter of fine-tuning that and finding the roles for everyone. And obviously losing Bryce Cotton early on in the season doesn't help things as well.
What's been their biggest positive, Shawn, of the season so far?
Oh, look, I like the growth of Ben Hinchell. I think, if you look at the Bryce Cotton injury, it probably gave him a little bit more of a limelight and the ability to kind of go out and play his game instead of deferring to Bryce, which you're going to do when you got that type of caliber of player on the court with you. But to see him take that, really expand his game has been a positive for me. And, for looking to the future of the Wildcats, a guy like him, if he sticks around, is a huge get for the Wildcats. And to be in a WA boy, I think, the Wildcats fans have really rallied around him and seen his growth this year. I thought he was going to improve, but I didn't know he would improve this much this quickly.
And we haven't seen his best yet, have we, on a more consistent basis, because he's only, early 20s.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I mean, it's the thing about put myself in his shoes at 20. There was no way I was ready for NBL basketball. So to see what he's doing at this level against guys that have been pros for 10, 15 years is pretty impressive. And I have to be excited about the future prospects of him.
What's been their biggest challenge so far?
Look, I think it's just finding that consistency. And especially for me, it's probably on the defensive end. I think, some games they'll give up 50, 60 points in a half, and then they'll come out and they'll be really switched on lockdown defense and give up 30. And you're like, well, can they produce that on a nightly basis? And, they've got enough good defenders out there. I've looked at their teams probably the last couple of years that probably didn't have the elite defenders, but they've got a good defender almost at every position. And I think when they put it all together and play team defense, they can be really good. Now, on defensive side of things, they don't have a shot blocker that's going to really man the paint. So they really got to keep their guy in front of them. Their leading shot blocker is Dylan Windler at 0.6 a game. And so, that's not going to, teams aren't going to be scared going into the paint. So they got to really be switched on. But they're active. They've got long arms. They're versatile. And, I think that was one area that John really wanted improved on was defensive intensity and also rebounding. They have gotten better at that, which I think that they need to continue to improve because as good as Almanza is, he's still a young kid, and they don't have that big guy that Sar that can kind of really protect the paint when they need him to.
They allow 93 points a game. I mean, you understand this league better than most. It doesn't feel like that's sustainable to win a championship. Yeah, you might score a few, but I'm not sure they can keep letting 93 a game through, can they?
No, and that's, they've got that capability. When you look at some of the games and they can lock teams down 30, 40 points and a half. That's how they got to win. There was a game earlier in the season where they were missing a lot of shots, and Hinder came out, grabbed heaps of defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, and they won the game just by their pure effort. To me, that's an encouraging sign, because if you can win when you're not playing well, and they didn't have Bryce Cotton, so that if they can start to put all those things together, I think that there's going to be positive signs in the second half. They've also, you got to, as much as you hate to give the schedule a crux, it is really tough to play at home in Perth on, say, a Friday night, and then travel and play a Sunday afternoon game. The shooting percentages are a lot lower on the road. They're only shooting 29% from the three-point line in their road games, and a lot of those have kind of been on back-to-back. So they don't have many more of those going on in the season. So if they can pick up some more road wins, I think that's going to be helpful. But defensively, they've got to get back down into the 80s, I think. It's too hard to win in this league. By the time teams scout you, know your actions, everything that you're trying to do to consistently win, giving up that many points.
Biggest surprise packet for the Wildcats?
Oh, look, for me, Elijah Pepper. I really, I wasn't sure how much impact he was going to have. Saw him in the preseason, really liked what he was given. And I think also he's, in his short NBL career, he's really shown to be a clutch player as well. He's hit some big timely buckets that you don't normally see from a young guy. Obviously, he played 4 years at college, which helps. So he's coming in probably a little bit more advanced, and he was the guy in college as well. So he's used to having the ball in his hands. But I've been really impressed with him. Now, he's not shooting the ball terrific, but I think he's hit some big shots, and I think he can kind of be that X factor off the bench for the Wildcats. And he can play multiple positions. He's a better passer than I thought he would be coming in. He can play point guard, he can play shooting guard, so they can play him off Bryce Cotton as well when they need some shooting on the court. So I've been really impressed with him and how impactful he's been early on in his career.
Now, ordinarily, if I was to ask you the question, who's the Perth Wildcats MVP so far, I probably wouldn't even bother to ask you, Shawn, because we always know the answer. It's always Bryce. But he's missed a few games this year. It's given some opportunities to others. Is Bryce still the MVP for Perth so far this season?
Yeah, look, he missed 5 games. I still think he's the MVP. Anytime a guy can come in and drop 30. But, there's been other guys been able to step up. Pinder's had some big games. I really like the way that he's been playing at times. And he's probably the barometer of the team at the moment as well. When he's aggressive, when he's rebounding, and not so much floating on the three-point line, and just being that big guy and being that mismatch against the other 5, he can really impact the game, and he's shown that in stretches, but hasn't probably shown that consistently enough. So I think when he does do that, I think he's there. I think they've got some nice pieces. Windler, I really like the look of him. He's probably hasn't shot the ball as well as he probably would have liked, and probably his reputation coming in. But when he seems a bit streaky, but I think if he can build that consistency, and going 3 for 6, 3 for 7 from the 3-point line, probably being a little bit more aggressive, I think that's going to really help him. But I'd say early on it is Bryce, but there's definitely been some guys that have kind of stepped up in his absence, which has been good to see.
So what do we need to see more of from Perth in the second half of the season?
Look, I think that they're a team that is got to get back to almost their identity's got to become more defense than offense. And I think if they can do that, use their defense to ignite their offense, you're not always going to be able to knock down the three. They do shoot a lot of 3-pointers. So the one thing that I have been impressed this year has been their rebounding, offensive rebounding as well. Probably Windler's one of those guys that have kind of come in. The way he attacks the offensive glass, especially, he's not just standing on the 3-point line, is been impactful, especially when they're not making threes. But if they can get back to playing defense, maybe Damian Martin can come down there and teach them a few things over this little FIBA break, and hopefully use their defense to ignite their offense and not having to rely on scoring 100 a game to get a win.
Mid-season report grade. This is the hard part that I think everyone's had a bit of a challenge with, is trying to find the appropriate grade for the teams. Where have you got Perth sitting, Shawn?
Look, I would say most teams sitting, about 500, you'd probably be in a B-, but knowing the expectations over here in Perth and WA, if you're below 500, taking the Bryce Cotton injury, everything, they've had a lot of home games, and they're going to have some road games coming up, obviously over the December month when they're out of their stadium. That I think that, I'm going to give them a C+, just because of the expectation here. The expectation is you're competing for championships. My first season here, I think we started 2-5. Andrew Vlahoff comes in, owner at the time, gives us an absolute spray. And, I think we went on to win the next 6 games. And you just set the tone. That's the level of expectation here in WA. And the passion that the Red Army has for the Wildcats. Then I can, 6 and 7's not what they're looking for. And although we've had some good wins, it's something that I think, to spur them on. And I'm sure Bryce Cotton will watch this broadcast and he'll be like, "All right, boys, it's time to second half of the season. It's our time. Let's get going and get some wins on the board."
Because Shawn Redhage said so. That's why he's going to say it. When you say something, Shawn, it cuts through a little bit deeper. So, look, if we got that together,
they've improved this year, but I think that they're and I think that they've got the pieces to do something special. It's just a matter of putting them together. And to win a championship is incredibly tough, and being healthy is a big part of it. And so if they can get everyone healthy, everyone finding their roles, that I think that there's some exciting things ahead for the Wildcats this season.
So the last one before we let you go is, if we get back together at the end of the regular season, Wildcats are 6th now. Where will they be at the end of the regular season?
Look, I think over the next couple of weeks is probably going to determine. They've got a few home games, and then they play away for a little bit. So they need to get some more road wins. I think they've only got 1 road win so far. And although they played well, against Melbourne, that first half they were outstanding. But then Chris Goulding decided it was time to have the game of the year. So that those type of things, you got to get some road wins. But I think they'll finish 3rd. If predicting right now, I think that they got a good stretch run home, and hopefully, this FIBA break will be good for them to get everyone healthy. Doolittle was injured in the last game, and that didn't help them as well on the road. And so if they can get him healthy, they can get. Windler's had some issues. You look across the board; they've had a lot of guys miss at least 1 or 2 games. So if they can get everyone healthy, finding their roles, I think they'll jump up to it's going to be a tough league. You can't take any team out. Even Tasmania Jack Jumpers have had a struggle this year, but they're going to turn it around at some point. And so every team's a tough out, and you're going to find it's going to be pretty tight there in the end. But I think the Wildcats they'll have a success come the second half of the season and get up to 3rd. Third place. I think it might be tough to get 1st or 2nd with how many losses they've already got so far.
3 of their next 5 at home, and then they hit the road at the back end of December and into early January. So as Shawn Redhage tells us, a very challenging next few weeks coming up for Perth. Shawn, great to see you. Great to have you on the show. Always nice to hear your voice, and we're going to watch on with interest to see what it looks like for the Wildcats for the second half of the season.
Thanks, Jack. Enjoyed being here.
Thanks for being with us on NBL Now. Don't forget, of course, it all starts back again Thursday night with Illawarra and New Zealand. The Wildcats in action this weekend. It's about to get very, very big. NBL.com.au for all the latest news and information.